What is up, everyone?
What's going
Here
on,
we go.
people? So this is cool. Our third
Shot
time.
number 3. Let's see how this goes.
Third time on camera, so this is cool.
Yeah, we're gonna try and do a couple different angles. I got one up there
One down here.
and one
down
there.
here. People are like, what are you pointing at?
Hopefully it goes.
And I tried to get a booster seat this time. I don't even know if it's working. I still feel tiny, but
Yeah,
it's all good.
So how have you done?
Paul is actually really close to the camera, and I'm really far back.
That's right.
Actually, be the other way around. I'd be closer. Actually,
have you ever been to one of those? Have you ever seen those museums of like it's optical illusions?
Yes.
Or at least seen that?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Don't we have one?
We might. Oh, well, in Orlando, I think we do.
Yeah, the Science Museum.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Where it makes you look real tiny and then real big.
Right.
Yeah. Those are fun.
It's a perfect way to diet. You need to see yourself. This is how I should look. But
get one of those mirrors.
So how's everything going?
Everything's been going all right.
Good.
It's been another week.
Yeah.
Been another busy week because of what we're about to talk about today.
I know, right? So we got a pretty good response from our live our video podcast.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Right? Yeah.
Right?
Although I think I posted, or at least I'm gonna post. We had 666 minutes watched. I'm like, can we get one more?
Oh, yeah.
666.
That's not good.
It's evil.
That's not good.
Yeah. But other than that, it was no, I appreciated it. I thought we had a decent response, and
yeah,
let's see how it goes.
You know what we should do sometime is put like one of the time lapse things at the very beginning so people can see all the stuff we have to do beforehand, and then put that video up in it. Like, this is what happens at the beginning. So much has to happen.
You know who I didn't hear a response?
Because there's
from?
actually bunk beds in here that we tear down.
Yeah,
just joking.
Yeah, exactly. This is a bedroom.
That would be weird.
So who we didn't hear from was Four Rivers.
Come on, Four Rivers. They're a little busy right now, though.
And Joel. Oh, yeah.
They are a little busy.
Okay, so let's talk about that real quick.
Yeah, the lineup for Rivers right now.
You know what week it is now?
What week is it? Oh, it's Bike Week. Oh, yeah.
So
That's right.
I appreciate Bike Week for anyone who comes to Daytona and wants to do bike. I appreciate it, but the roads are so busy.
I'm usually out of town during Bike Week, but so the conference I usually go to right now during Bike Week got canceled because of what we're going to talk about.
Really?
That I didn't tell you that in Chicago.
Wow.
I was supposed to go to Chicago next week.
Yeah.
It got canceled because of
the coronavirus. That's what we're going to talk about, people. We're going to talk about that coronavirus.
They shut down the entire conference, and it's the largest housewares show in the world that week. I mean, it's huge in Chicago. It like everything, and they shut the whole thing down.
Wow.
Yeah. So airlines, everything had to get canceled. Hotels, restaurants.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it's been busy. It's been a busier week at work because of that. You know, people have been coming in. We'll talk more about that second. So, but yeah, so it's a little bit. So, you know, this is a busy time in our city because we have the Daytona 500, which just ended.
We live in Daytona.
Ish. Yeah, Daytona-ish.
Daytona-ish.
I'm not telling you where I live.
Right.
And then
and don't ask.
And then and now we have Bike Week.
Right.
And so
and spring break's coming up.
Spring break's coming up.
Wow.
Though spring break is more like family.
I think it's not like how it used to be.
Yeah.
Spring break used to be really rough.
Back when you were a young warthog.
Back when I was, and MTV would come here.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy back then, but now it's not as bad.
That's good, though.
Yeah. So, should we just jump in?
Yeah.
Just jump into this?
We're going to talk about coronavirus, like we said. And here's the thing. It's like, why would you two talk about coronavirus?
And it's not the beer, which for some reason, some people literally think if you drink the Corona beer, you can get the virus.
Which is one of the things we're going to talk about. The amount of truth that is out there right now.
The knowledge of mankind.
Awful.
Yeah.
Awful. And it kills me.
Horrible.
It's killing us in the hospital.
I bet.
It absolutely is. We're just like, what is going on?
It's almost like you want to say, hey, why don't you walk outside, think about your life, start over, and then walk back in if you need to. I mean, just think about what you just told us, and then come back in. You know, I got this paper cut. I think I have coronavirus. Or, you know,
totally doing the front desk. Like, and when they write down the complaint, you look at it like, why don't you think about what you did?
Right.
Go back out, and then come back in and tell me that's real.
It's rough.
So why would we talk about this? So, I think one of the things is you're seeing a lot of people's hearts right now.
Yeah.
You're seeing a lot of people's hearts in the world, and you're seeing a lot of people's hearts in some of Christianity. And that's what these types of things do.
Mm-hmm.
It shows how people react it's not even in hard times, but it's not even hard times right now for us. And we're still acting like it's
Like the millennial reign is here.
Yeah, it's like threat of a possible hard time.
Right.
I think you can pull it up. There's actually a live. It's called Worldometer or something, and it's a live thing. They even have a YouTube channel where you can just pull up live, and it just ticks up a little bit, like
as people die,
as cases
Infected.
are recorded or people
Infected.
are right, and so you can see it live. I think it's and we'll show it's like 101,000, but I mean in America, I don't even think there's that many cases right now.
Right. Because when it happens in America right now, it's pretty rare. Like when it pops up, it's like, oh, we have another one. Yeah.
And right now it's on the West Coast,
Right.
Washington State.
I think there were 2 in Tampa where we are.
Now it's 3, but yeah,
3 in Tampa. Yeah.
But it's just so first of all, we're seeing how people when they act in the situation, how it reveals our hearts. Secondly, with the hysteria that was going on, I was like, this is a perfect example of people who are slaves to sin and death.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how we as Christians aren't slaves to sin and death, and how we could actually help them.
Right.
So that's what I want to talk about this. We're going to put some facts. I mean, I do work in the ER for people who don't know. And so, I'll add some of that to it, but my base here isn't necessarily, it's to give a little bit of education, but it's also just to talk about the response, because the things we'll talk about here, I think could go for any type of pandemic or any type of rampant sickness or plague or hardship, hurricane, whatever it is.
Right.
We as Christians can have very similar responses to this. So,
okay. So I don't mean to cut you off, but something I just thought about. Okay. Did we start hitting record on these two?
We did.
We did?
I did. Pretty sure we did.
I'm nervous. I don't know if I should look.
No, we're not. We're rolling.
Okay.
We're rolling.
I just got so nervous. I'm like, did we hit record? Okay.
Yeah, so. We're going. We're going. I'm going. I'm 90% sure.
Let's do it. Okay.
All right. So, coronavirus. Just so people know, so coronavirus has been around for a while. I mean, I've diagnosed with people with coronavirus ever since I started doing this. And so it's not just generic coronavirus. So that's like saying flu. There's actual different types.
Right.
So we're going after right now, it's called the COVID-19. That's the current strain. Okay. Coronavirus it can be a serious virus. It was responsible for SARS, which is the sudden acute respiratory syndrome, or MERS, MERS, that's Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome. So it's a strain of a virus, and this particular strain is COVID-19. I think there's actually 2 types. I think there's an L and an S. And so first seen in December in Wuhan, China.
Right.
So city of Wuhan. Death rate right now, so like I said, we just got over 101,000 people,
which is a lot.
It's kind of.
I guess when you think about the scheme of
in the
world, yeah,
right.
Not a lot of it.
So if you think about that, so that's 101,000 people are infected. Deaths are about 3,400. Okay,
gotcha.
So and when you say 100,000 people infected, those are people who have tested positive. So sometimes people are sick and they just never get to test them, because one of the problems we're having right now is just even having kits available.
Right.
So because everybody thinks they have it and are demanding, in the beginning we were testing more people and they're demanding these testings. I know we've already tested 3 people in our hospital and they're all negative. And when we tested them, I knew they were going to be negative.
Right.
It was one of those so now we don't have as many kits available, and so now we can't test as many people. So we're going to test the real serious cases. So in one sense, that's where some of this gets wrong. Is 100,000 almost serious cases have been reported, and of those serious cases, 3,400 have had deaths. That's why they tend to think. So while you would have 100,000 people infected and 3,000 dying, so that would be 3%. That's why they say it's more like 1%, is because they think there's a lot of mild and moderate cases that are never even tested.
Gotcha.
And interestingly enough, if you actually look at the breakdown on that site, that Worldometers, you'll see that the people who are dying, there's a huge percent jump once you hit age 60. And when I say huge, it goes from like 1% or less for for people under that age to like 8% of that population. and higher are over 60. So again, it affects people who are a little bit older. Not that 60's old. I don't need your emails.
Anyway, we appreciate you. We appreciate you.
That's where you're getting. So 60, and then really the age that they've seen it that really jumps. It was a slight jump from 60 to 70, 70, 80, but 80 plus. That was the big. And we understand that they're older people, older population. Their immune system is good. They don't have that ability to recover. So what we would say in medicine is they don't have a lot of reserve, meaning they don't have, when your system's down, do they have a lot of other things that can just maintain without, being healthy there. So
that makes sense.
So for reference though, and this is why I want to put it in perspective, flu. Now, how many of y'all got your flu shots who are all worried about corona? Just going to put that out there. However you feel about flu shots, I'm not trying to force it on you. I'm just saying if you're freaking out about coronavirus, haven't got your flu shot, let me give you some statistics. Since October, there's been 100,000 cases of Wuhan or this corona, COVID-19. We've had anywhere from 32 to 45 million cases of regular flu in the United States.
32 million?
Correct.
Wow.
32 to 45 million. Again, we don't test everyone. A lot of times in the ER, if we're busy, we're like, let's see, body aches, high fever, feel like you got hit by a truck, cough. Yeah. Here's your Tamiflu buys. We're not swabbing you because just move it on. Right. Okay. So in the epicenter of this in China, the total epicenter, there's 80,000 cases, right? So the epicenter of Wuhan, China, or not necessarily just Wuhan, but China in general, there's been 80,000 cases. So in America, right? And in America, I think there's 320 or 330 million people. In China, there's 2 billion. Yeah. Okay. So in a population of 300 or so million people, we've had 32 to 45 million. So 10% of the population has got that. Whereas in China, of 2 billion, you've only had 80,000 cases. So you see the number discrepancies? Yeah. It's a lot less.
Absolutely.
And as opposed to 3,400 people dying worldwide from this, we've had anywhere from 18 to 46,000 deaths. Okay, 18,000 to 46,000 deaths from flu in the United States. So that's what I just want to put things in perspective. Right. And this is just from October. Right, from October of 2019 to now 2020. Right. Okay, so you're talking roughly
right now
6
it's
months.
March.
Right. So about 6 months. Okay. So that's what we're trying to get people to see. Like, look at the sheer difference. Now, is it true that flu has like a 0.1% death rate? Yes. Where coronavirus probably has a 1%. So technically 10 times as many. Yeah. Yes. But when you see the number of people infected, and it kind of puts in perspective, like, why are we going so nuts? Yeah.
So we live in Florida. Right. And when hurricanes and stuff come, one of my biggest pet peeves is, now granted, a hurricane, they can tell when it's a category 5, 4, whatever it is. So when we see something coming, everyone, it's pandemonium around here. Oh yeah. All the water's gone, all the food's gone, everything's gone, all the gas is gone. All the
gas, water,
everything
food,
is gone.
Plywood.
Yes.
I mean, like
it's a ghost town.
Wood in general. I mean, why do you need that? I'm trying to put in a garden, people.
Generators are all bought up. Everything's gone. It's amazing. All of a sudden, everybody has money during storms.
Okay, so let me talk about that first. They put it on their credit card, and then what do they do after the hurricane? Yeah, they return them.
Yeah. Don't do it. Check your heart. Check that. But so one of the things I thought about in this is it's so easy to be caught up in this pandemonium. Yeah. That you just almost want to turn off everything. And just, you know what I mean? And be like, you know what? Wash your hands.
Right. So that's the thing. So that's it's spread droplet, right? So the reason you can get it from somebody in the air is because if they sneeze or if they cough, right? Because what happens when you sneeze or cough? Well, water's coming out, y'all.
Germs get out, yeah. So
saliva
cover your mouth.
Mucus, right?
Man, it's nasty.
Just give me one of these.
Seriously, give me one of these. Get it. Come on.
All right, so that's why all these people who are stealing what they call them N95 masks, which are meant to stop tuberculosis, which is not, and measles and okay. So that's why getting those masks and the other isn't really going to help you that much, because what are you going to do? You're going to touch a dirty door handle and then you're gonna scratch,
And you're gonna rub your eye, and
Yeah.
you're gonna also, yeah.
there you go. Like so it's either through surface touch or cough or sneeze. So that's why masks are a little of little value unless you have someone infected with it that and then all the mask is doing is catching the droplets.
Right.
Or the healthcare provider's doing it because they're right in the line. I got to listen to your lungs. And guess what? When I listen to your lungs, I got to be in front of you. And I can't tell you how many people have coughed on me when I listen to the lungs and I give them the look like.
So what you're saying is you might have it?
No, I don't have it. I feel great.
I'm glad this is being filmed.
What show is that? It's like, bring out your dad. I'm not dead. I'm feeling better. I'm happy.
Wait, do we have to pay to use references?
Huh?
Do we have to pay to use references?
I don't think no.
Okay, good.
No, that's fair use. Come on now. Everybody knows that.
Oh man.
So yeah, but that's the thing. All right. So you're right there.
I can't stop. Okay.
All right.
All right, I'm good.
All right. I'm happy.
Stop.
You don't like my accents. All right, so masks are gonna protect you fully.
Right.
They're actually starting to put us on droplet precautions for people who are having what we call lower respiratory, so deep cough and high fever, and we don't necessarily know. The problem we have right now, honestly, is because flu shows up very similar.
Right.
So do they have the flu or do they have coronavirus? Either way, they're treated very similarly.
Right.
So most of it's symptomatic treatment. We can put people on Tamiflu for the influenza, but only in the first 36 hours. It really doesn't have much of an effect except give you diarrhea, which that's fun to have while you have the flu.
Right.
All right. So recently, I think just today, and today being what today's the 6th, President Trump just signed a bill for $8 billion to fight this. Okay. So we're trying.
Yeah.
We only have something around 475,000 ICU beds. We only have so many ventilators. So if this were to become pretty rampant on top of the flu season, we are going to have some issues. You're right. So there is an issue of some people, that we may have limited capacity, even in America, which by most people's account is one of the best places for medicine, and you get some of the best treatments.
Right.
People come to this country for treatments. People don't normally go from this country to other countries.
Right. Yeah.
So, we even have limited capacities because it's just, it's one of those things that it's a bump, right? We can't pay for this all the time. And so what happens, you get a blip, you do your best.
Yep.
All right. So here's the deal.
Okay.
So we say all these facts, you say things, so is there a threat? There is a threat. Sure. But is it as much as some people are saying? No. And it kills us. And this is what was coming to me. It shows people's hearts. And we'll go through some of this as we go. The first thing is it shows how people have a fear of death.
Yeah.
Just straight up. When you see the panic that's going on, the people buying up the Lysol, the people buying up the hand sanitizer, they're having to ration this stuff like it's
the masks and everything.
Yeah,
else,
we're in World War II again, and we're having to ration all this other stuff.
Right.
Why? People are fearing of death.
Yeah.
Death enslaves us. Right? Isn't that the big thing? Because it's the thing that's coming for all of us.
Yeah.
And we don't want it to come because inside a lot of people understand death is coming for us.
Yeah. It's got a 100% success rate.
Yeah.
And the difference is, and we're going to get into this later, is that we look at death differently.
Right.
So we don't fear death. Yeah. When we experience death, it's very sad. I mean, we've gone through that recently. We've talked about it before on this podcast.
Of course.
But we don't see death as others see death.
Right.
We see death as just it's just a season.
Right.
And then we move on to the next season, which is glorious. It's with our Savior. It's with Christ. And so in order for us to instill this hope in this season of death, well, then we have to share the good news of what happens while we're on this earth, right?
Absolutely.
And that's the gospel.
That's the gospel.
Yeah.
But we can't act like slaves of death if we have the gospel, and because our gospel message won't go out.
Right.
And people who are like, well, if there's coronavirus in our county, shouldn't we cancel church services? Like, why?
Right. there's people overseas who are not canceling church service, and you have people busting down their doors with guns,
right,
guns to their heads, and they're not canceling. But yet we're afraid someone's going to sneeze on us.
In fact, just to show you, in China, people, instead of canceling church services, they're going out into the streets and helping people,
right,
and saying, "Hey, we're Christians. We're just trying to show you the love of Christ here." One, you telling other people that you're a Christian could mark you later for death,
right,
and two, going to the epicenter where this is all happening and still showing, I'm not afraid of death. I mean, man, that's awesome.
Right.
But we serve a God that's conquered death. I mean, 1 Corinthians 15:54, right? It says in the ESV, when the perishable puts on the imperishable and the mortal puts on immortality, then shall come to pass the saying that is written, death is swallowed up in victory. O death, where is your victory? O death, where is your sting? The sting of death is sin, and the power of sin is the law. But thanks be to God who gives us the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ.
Wow.
We have victory over death, and we need to start acting like victors instead of acting like losers.
Right. Yeah.
And
the fight's already been won.
Right.
And sometimes we act like we have no idea what's coming in the end, but we already know.
Right.
As a believer, you know the end of the story, you know? Right. And so we need to live our lives according to that, to say we don't have a bad ending. You know,
in fact, death brings freedom.
Absolutely,
death brings freedom from our sin nature.
Absolutely,
death brings freedom from our disabilities or depravity that we have inside of us here on earth. So for a Christian, death brings freedom. So we cannot be scared. Now, I'm not saying like charge straight into the mouth of death here and like, you know, we're not scared. You know,
right?
No, that's not what I'm saying. Obviously, you know, like I said, wash your hands. Don't touch your face. If somebody is sick, then be careful around them. You know,
don't lick people's face.
I mean, and technically, I think the CDC said stay within. If somebody's sick and you're within, you know, be about 6 feet from them if they're actively coughing and febrile and all that.
Right.
But unless you have a mask or something. But you know, that's the thing is so there's smart things you can do, but you don't have to be afraid of death.
Yeah.
You don't have to be scared of death.
Right.
We have those gospel tools, and that gospel tool that we need to use is that we've conquered death.
Yeah.
So act like it.
And I think, in moving on to our next point here is when we don't, or when we do fear death, and what happens is this pandemonium that happens, and we've seen it. You and I have talked about this, but what happens is we start to hate. Right, hate enters in. We start to hate our fellow men. Yeah. So we'll go into that a little bit.
No, yeah. Fear leads to hate because all of a sudden you fear death. So you hate anybody. You're going to start hating anybody who might kill you, right? Yeah. Who poses a threat to you.
Right.
So what you're going to do is you're going to start isolating yourself, or, you know, I saw, I mean, okay, so in the hospital, I've had at least 3 people come and just say, oh, I've got a cough and I've been around foreigners. Not,
wow.
I've been around people who've been from the country who are infected. Not, you know, someone who's been infected directly with this. It's just foreigners.
Wow.
And I'm like, xenophobia is not a risk factor.
It's sad.
But all of a sudden that comes out.
Right.
And I'm like, foreigner? Like, bro, we're all foreigners.
Yeah. And it's amazing how bold people are in saying those things too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, all of a sudden, unless you are from here, you look like you're from here.
Right.
You would think we're at war all of a sudden with anybody that walks into this, and it's horrible.
And you know, it's there's people at my hospital, and I even told one of my coworkers, she's Chinese, and she actually just has a cold, so she had a cough, and I'm just like, I'm sorry, because I'm sorry people are gonna look at you the way they're gonna look at you.
Right.
I told her that honestly, I was like, you should just play on their ridiculous, because she knows how to speak Mandarin, and just start speaking Chinese to him and just freak him out. But you know, it's just one of those, like, come on.
Right.
There's another thing. There's a guy on a bus, and there were some Asian people just minding their own business, weren't coughing, weren't febrile.
I saw that video.
What's the person doing? Starts yelling at him, starts spraying them with Lysol.
Right.
Really? You're gonna spray Lysol on someone's face?
Horrible. It's horrible. It really is.
What are you doing?
It really is bad. And as believers, we are, you know, everything. What I love about doing this podcast is everything that we do is what does the Bible say about these things, right?
Yeah.
Every situation that happens in life, the Bible gives an answer about it, you know? So we can look at, what is it, Matthew 25?
Yeah.
Matthew 25:34. Let me see, where am I? Matthew 25:34.
Oh, that's the story about when God's talking to people at the end, and they're saying, I did all these things, and he said, "Well, I was sick."
Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So just a few verses. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, come, you who are blessed by the Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you for the foundation of the world. For I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. I was naked and you clothed me. I was sick and you visited me. I was in prison and you came to me." Then the righteous will answer him, saying, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink?" And then this is where I think sometimes we kind of stop right there, right?
Hmm.
But the Bible tells us when we saw him. And he says, "And when did we see you a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you sick or in prison or visit you?" And then the king will answer them, and we know who the king is.
Hmm.
"Truly I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of these, my brothers, you did it to me."
Yeah.
I mean, this all goes back to the Imago Dei, right?
Right.
This all goes back to the image of God and
Yeah.
how we've been created, and
How
we are to take
treating
care
people.
of, right, God's creation, God's creatures, the men and women that God has placed on this earth. And here's the thing: if we're gonna, especially as believers, right, because we look at it through the lens of Christ, if we are gonna start hating people because they sneeze or because they do this, like, I can't imagine like what you think about their soul.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just stay in your house. Like, just stay in your house, because God has not called you to be afraid of a cold.
Right.
God has told us to go and tell them about the gospel of Jesus Christ, make disciples, baptize. If God is going to deliver you from the grips of hell and of death and of sin, he's going to protect you from the coronavirus.
Right. Right. I mean, and his ultimate protection again is, even if you get it and even if you die, what happens? You go to heaven.
Right. Right.
So nothing's gonna stop that.
Right.
You're in God's hands.
Mm-hmm.
And so what are we supposed to do? I was reading a thing from in Psalms, and it was in First Peter, how I was talking about, when you add knowledge and faith and all these things, and then it says it's basically, if you do all this, your life won't be unfruitful. And that's the thing, is I just thought in my head, God has just called us to be faithful.
Yeah.
And he'll figure out the rest,
Yeah.
right? Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you.
Right.
Another thing, and again, just look at this. So Galatians 5, verse 13. For you were called to freedom, brothers. Only do not use your freedom as an opportunity for the flesh, but through love serve one another. For the whole law is fulfilled in one word: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. But if you bite and devour one another, watch out that you are not consumed by one another.
Wow.
So, and that's what happens. Something comes up in the church. Something arises even like this. And how are we going to look at each other? What if somebody comes in and they're looking sick? What are we going to do?
Right.
I'm not touching you. Get away from me. I'm
Right.
staying at least 6 feet from you. Are we going to feel compassion on them? Like the lepers. Jesus felt compassion for them.
Yeah.
And he wanted to help them.
We think about our own selves, like we are sinners, and God showed compassion to us. Even in our filthiness, God showed compassion to us through his son, Jesus Christ, sent his only son, who he had perfect unity with, sent his only son to die for filthy sinners like us.
Absolutely.
And yet we are just so hands off to those who we think are dirty. You know what I mean? Yeah. It blows my mind. And so then
actually, why don't we do this? We're going to take a break, and we'll come back for the last reason.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Sounds good.
All right,
so
we're back.
We took an intermission. Okay, so you're probably, like people are probably looking break. And probably thinking,
we'll put a commercial in there.
Yeah. It won't be Four Rivers, because they're not sponsoring us.
Yeah, where's Joel Osteen at?
Seriously.
Where's Kanye at?
I know. Come on.
Four Rivers?
We need some sponsors.
Where's AT&T?
Oh, is that the new one we're going to start saying?
Because my Wi-Fi wasn't so good, and they jacked up my price for cable.
That's right.
Like, well, if you want to sponsor us.
That's right. Okay, so we were just talking about just the hatred of man.
Right.
Right.
And we had just left at the hatred of man, of how a fear of death brings on a hatred of anyone who threatens to bring that death upon you.
Mm-hmm.
And so anything like that, as a course of survival, or as just a pride of you're not gonna be the one to kill me.
Right.
You're gonna show hatred towards people,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what we see.
Right.
Fear brings that hatred on.
Right.
So, and then last thing that I think we should talk about is just that preoccupation with myths that and not living in truth. So we live in a world that it's interesting. Instead of being a world that revolves around truth, we revolve around popular myths online
Yeah.
or popular opinions, especially online, and feelings.
Yeah.
So many times you hear people go, "Yeah, but I feel like it's this and this and this," and you're like, "Well, what is that based on?"
Mm-hmm.
And so online, the other thing that we have is that tend to question. You can have 20 articles come out. So the articles that I was reading, New England Journal of Medicine, articles from the CDC, articles from epidemiologists, articles from virologists. These are, and this is where I'm getting my facts from.
Right.
But then other people would get on, like some person who I saw him just went on this like Twitter rant where it's like, it's worse than you think. And they put all these pictures that were like random pictures of people sick or in hospitals. I'm like, I don't even know if they're flu.
You know what we call those things? We call them fitters. Twitter fights.
Twitter fights. So I don't know. And how many times have we seen that? How many times have we seen, somebody talks about, this and this and this, and you'll have 20 people say the same thing, right?
Right.
And then all of a sudden someone's like, yeah, but the real truth is, and everyone believes the guy who's that, oh, it's the real truth.
Right.
And that's what I get so upset at.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, as Christians, we serve the truth, right?
Yeah.
Because God is truth.
Right.
Sanctify them in your truth. Your word is truth. God is truth.
Right.
God, and so truth, remember, has two aspects to it. We talk about the moral aspect to it, and in that God does not lie.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's just the reality aspect of it is God says how it is.
Yeah.
If God says something is like that, it's just like that.
Right.
There's no
questioning about it.
About that. So we need to learn that to live in a way that we live by the truth. 1 Timothy. I think it's 1 Timothy 4.
Yeah, 4, 6.
So 1 Timothy 4:6. Yeah, if you put these things before the brothers, you will be a good servant of Christ Jesus, being trained in the words of the faith of the good doctrine and that you followed, having nothing to do with irreverent, silly myths. Rather, train yourself for godliness. For while bodily training is of some value, godliness is of value in every way, as it holds promise for the present life and also for the life to come. The saying is trustworthy and deserving of full acceptance. For to this end we toil and strive, because we have our hope set on the living God, who is the Savior of all people, especially of those who believe. So this is something that I want to focus on here, because there's a couple of things that I think are important. Number one, have nothing to do with irreverent, silly myths. Now, in that context, it's mostly doing with myths about different religions, and you know how everybody wants to have these conspiracy theories about this is where this religion is, and the Illuminati, and all of these types of things that go on. And it's like, well, no, there's not like some secret society that is putting on all these different religions per se, and Christianity is just one of those religions, or there's, I'm doing a false cult and false religions class, and in every one of those cases, it's like this secret knowledge that no one else knew. Aren't we? Mankind is so wanting a secret knowledge.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like the secret sauce, right? It's like when you go to a restaurant and, man, I wish I could make it like this. And, oh, sorry, it's our secret sauce. Well, with God, He's revealed to us everything we need to know in His Word, right? So that's why we are sanctified in His truth, and His Word is truth. And it says that His truth will set us free. Well, it sets us free from those things, from those myths that enter our mind. Because here's the thing. When you start to be caught up in all these myths, and we just happen to be talking about the coronavirus today, but we can insert so many things that mankind has fallen into.
Right.
When we start to put our eyes on those things, what are our eyes doing? Well, they're being diverted from the one our eyes should be pointing to.
Correct.
And it is Christ. It is the work on the cross. It is the finished work of Jesus Christ. It is His righteousness. It is our freedom in Him. And so we start to see all this, man, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this, or else this is going to overtake me.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, no, I just need to humble myself before the King of Kings,
right,
knowing that He's going to protect me in all of this. Right. I mean, it's...
And that's, I think, His point. Look at the second part of this. Rather, train yourself for godliness.
Yeah.
Right? And then, one of the two workout verses that rule my life, for while bodily training is of some value, it's really of like little value. My other verse comes from Proverbs that says, only a fool runs when no one is chasing him.
Well, I guess Gold's isn't going to sponsor us now. Cool. There goes that one.
This out of context verse has been brought to you by Project 224.
Oh man,
the Bible says don't work.
So many people are like, "Amen, amen."
Stay on the couch. All right, so but the point is, bodily training does have some value, so working out is fine. But it says godliness is of value in every way.
Yes, yeah.
And here's the deal. Are we so stuck in trying to find out how much we're online trying to find out the real truth or the real thing about coronavirus or the next thing or the next thing? Does it distract us from our gospel mission?
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that because so many times we are caught up in what the media says or what Hollywood says or what our favorite artist says, and we're like, oh man, they had this enlightenment. I can't believe they said this. Look at this quote they said. And it's like, there is no truth in that. If it's not of God, it's false. Like it is not truth. And yet we cling to it so quick. Because you have an artist say something like, we need to, I don't know, take care of ourselves and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, did you hear such and such say that? It's like, that's common sense. Like, it's not because of that person said it. It's common sense, you know?
Right.
Like, don't have your mind so wrapped up in what the world deems is correct or what's right. And have your mind engulfed in what God is saying is right. So when he says, strive towards godliness, well, first you need to is kind of define and look at what is godliness.
Right.
You know, we kind of talked about this last podcast a little bit with relationships, but just having those righteous thoughts, is that godliness, the way you walk. And it doesn't mean that you are becoming a God. Right. It just means that you are becoming more of an image bearer of Christ, of Jesus Christ. And
you're reflecting his glory back to him.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's godliness.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's what we should be doing, is trying to strive to find out how to become more godly. Because again, if we live for this world, like we are scared of death,
right?
Well, we're not storing our treasure in heaven. We're not trying to build the kingdom. We're not doing what Jesus says, and we end up becoming disobedient.
Yeah.
And that's not what we're supposed to do.
Right.
Instead, we're supposed to be people who are focused on what it says here, and that is the giving people the gospel, right? Training in godliness, and that's why he says, "For this end we toil and strive. We have our hopes set on the living God, who is the Savior of all people."
Right.
So that's what it should be on, and I think that's the if I was gonna say, that encompasses our whole takeaway here is don't let fear of death lead to hatred of men, lead to going after these myths and trying to find out the real truth and got to have all that latest knowledge to know what to do and leading to buying up all this stuff from Costco and all this jazz that we've been hearing.
Right.
Like, how much time have you been spending fulfilling the purpose of God?
Right. Yeah.
Because all those cans of Lysol ain't gonna mean nothing when you get to heaven, right?
Right. That's so true.
And how much time are you spending trying to avoid death instead of time that you're preparing for death, for what happens after death, and how much time are you helping other people prepare for that same thing by giving the gospel?
And you know what? Focused. You know what's amazing, and I know we're about to wrap up. All of it is a result of sin.
Yeah.
Everything, every sickness, every heartache, every doubt, every broken relationship, everything is a result of sin.
Yeah.
And so when we look back at that and we try to trace things back, everybody's trying to trace back, where did it start? Well, let's go to Genesis 1. We can tell you where it started.
Right.
But as a believer and as a Christian, and this is what we're getting at, you have the tools to combat these things. Now, practically, we're saying, of course, wash your hands, take care of yourself, whatever. And you shouldn't be sneezing on people anyway, or what, stuff like that is just common sense.
It's gross.
Just be common sense with things. But as a Christian, we think beyond that. And so think gospel-minded, think heaven-minded, Christ honoring and all these things. Proclaim the gospel during this time, Don't add to the paranormal, but help add to the hope that is found in times like this.
Right. Put out that gospel message.
Right.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
And you know what? Let's say this is apocalyptic. It's apocalyptic. And all of a sudden it's like the plague, or it's like Spanish flu of 1918, or, all that. well, what are you going to do aren't you supposed to do the same thing? Aren't you supposed to be loving one another?
Right.
You're still going to put out the gospel because people need the gospel even more then.
Nothing changes. Yeah.
We just might need to go give it to in the hospitals.
Right.
We
Yeah.
have to ramp up our hospital ministry and just be like, because he's like, you
Right.
may meet your maker soon. Here, let me tell you the hope.
Yeah.
That's what people need. We have despair right now.
Right.
People need hope. We have hope. We have unlimited hope because we serve an eternal God who is the source of hope.
That's good. That's good.
So, just
That's
some
really
things
good.
to think about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we enjoy.
Hopefully, we'll have another podcast in case the coronavirus does creep in and
if
take
it
us out.
does, by the time this gets out of coronavirus taking us out, these are our last words.
Right.
But it ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
I'm calling it.
I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid.
All right, guys. Well, what do you think? Go ahead, give us a call call. Man,
Whoa.
we need a phone number.
We're not that far yet. We're not that far. Don't give us a call.
Don't call
There's
me.
no way to call us.
Drop us an email, project224 project224 podcast. I can't stop laughing.
You can reach us on Facebook. You can reach us on Instagram, Twitter, the Twitterverse.
We'll have somewhere on the screen. We'll have where you can contact us. I know. I can't wait to be able to point. Be like, it's going to be here.
But there's so many avenues to reach out to us. Please reach out to us. Let us know what you think about the podcast. We've been getting a lot of great feedback, which we love. We love reading it. We do have shirts coming. There's a couple people that have reached out to us. They're coming. They're coming. We just haven't seen you or something like that. There's a couple I'm thinking about this week that reached out, so we'll need to get them shirts. But we appreciate you guys more than you know. We love you. Thanks for hanging with us. We'll keep on bringing these podcasts as long as you keep listening.
All right.
Right? God bless you. We'll see you guys soon.